So today was kind of a weird workout. Yesterday I was helping rearrange a lot of furniture in one of the bedrooms at home and was moving around like a couple of different chest of drawers, some larger dressers, and kind of tweaked my right shoulder. So I was kind of nervous going through and doing bench today just because it was just sore throughout and gave me a little bit of pause going through and doing everything. Leading up to bench though, with doing squats, they moved very well. One thing that I've changed. I know I was discussing in previous weeks, feeling like I wasn't fully warmed up for the sets, and I have kind of changed things up just a little bit. In the past, whenever I was warming up, I would get to a certain threshold with the weights and then just kind of stop the warm ups either with a set of three or a set of five. And then as I was adding more weight, I would expand those sets to five or to three and add weight higher above. I think since I'm just used to doing the sets of five in general for some of those weights, once I get to that threshold of doing just that weight, say for like 185, I'm just going to keep that at a set of five regardless, just because that's what I'm comfortable doing. I can do it at a heavier weight with not much of loss in performance at all. So I'm just going to keep doing that since I'm used to it. And then as I keep bumping up weights, just add in sets as appropriate, but not really back them down as much. Going through these though, it moved very quickly. In my perception, going through that and watching these, everything moves or is moving pretty well. My lockouts are nice and strong. That's one thing I've been kind of concerned about the past week or so, week and a half. Just that I know I was a little soft up at top and not really getting my hips fully through at the end of each rep, but not really having difficulties doing that today. Getting a good amount of depth and going through, not really kind of cheating anything, and it's just going well. We'll see going into the fifth rep, or sorry, fifth rep, the fifth set. Again, just kind of went through that. Did another pause at the end of this set just because everything is moving fairly easily, and decided to just kind of add just a little bit more difficulty to it, just because while it is a fairly easy weight for me, I want to make sure I can still get something out of it in the end, and kind of see how that went here. One thing I do kind of think I might end up starting to do is a little bit add some front squats in periodically, just because my squats aren't as upright as I would like at the bottom, so there's not as much control with the lower end. So that might be something to kind of toy with, just to kind of keep that more upright because you have to be upright with front squats, and it really kind of helps balance that out just a little bit. Bench, I would say, moved incredibly well, despite the kind of the nagging feeling in my right shoulder. As I'm sitting here, 2 hours past the workout, it I don't feel like any sort of lingering pain or discomfort. So I think it's just kind of one of those. Once I started getting activity, started feeling a little sore. I'm kind of debating seeing how things feel on Saturday, and then I might forego doing overhead press on Saturday just to try to protect the shoulder a little bit. The right shoulder is the same one that I tore last year, so I am a little hesitant about pushing it a little bit too much with the ever-present risk of re-injuring it. The shoulder is one of those muscle groups that never truly fully heals from a tear. There's always going to be a risk of re-tearing again, and you need to do whatever you can to sort of protect that. And my tear wasn't really severe by any means, but it still took a hell of a lot of time to come back from and fully regain the capabilities that I had. And even then, I'm still not back to where I was before I tore my shoulder. I'm still building up a lot of the strength from then. So injuring it now at this point would be pretty aggravating to say the least, just because I just want to get that strength back. But these bench reps felt really nice. One thing that I was kind of focusing on was maintaining tension in my shoulders and my shoulder blades themselves. So pulling those down and then together while I was laying on the bench, that's something that I was very weak on for quite some time. I'd say the first year to year and a half of doing bench, of just being able to do that and be able to properly activate my chest with bench. So I was focusing on that, um, and everything just went went very smoothly. Now there was one little hiccup in my head. And one thing I usually always try to avoid is thinking of the next exercise while I'm doing my current one, just because it can kind of trick you up. And in my head, when I was counting reps going into my fourth set, I counted the fifth rep and thought I finished my fifth set. So I finished putting everything away, changed over, got everything set up, warmed up for deadlifts, and then I stopped and was looking at my training log and only saw that I had 4 sets filled out. Reviewed the footage, saw that, oh my God, I only did 4 sets. I've still got one more set to do. But it only been like 2 minutes since then, and I usually only do about a minute and a half rest between sets and bench. So I kind of gauged how tired I was, ran over, set the weights, did my fifth set, and then gave myself the proper amount of rest between the set of bench and my deadlifts that I would normally give after my warm up for my deadlifts. And even despite all that, the deadlifts moved very easily. These are something that I feel I have developed very well. The hex bar deadlifts, while they are, a deadlift, they're still kind of quad focused. So I always feel a little more tired doing them than conventional, at least starting out, just because I've done a quad workout with doing squats as well, and adding that in can kind of make it a little more tiring. But my quads are fairly strong, so I'm not, it's not that bad for me, but it's still kind of those like, all right, got to take a second and prepare myself to go through this. Um, but as I've mentioned before, really the primary focus of having these in my training is to focus on the kind of the mid shin portion right after you break the weight off the floor for conventional deadlift and be able to move that weight. If anything, just kind of feeling that weight out. I feel like that's a very valuable thing to do, is be able to feel yourself holding the weight. I know the hold and the pull are fundamentally different from a conventional deadlift in that it's a carry more or less on your sides, and that the weight is no longer in front of you, but you're still picking that weight up. You're still moving that weight from that position to a lockout position while standing. So it has value. And one thing that I was focusing on here in these sets and going through was making sure that, one, I wasn't doing touch and go reps. Two, that I had a flat back. And three, I was taking care in starting each rep to making sure that the slack was out of the weight before I pulled. That's one thing that I noticed that I was not doing as well on Tuesday, and so I really focused on that going through these, just to make sure that I had that done properly, so I wouldn't be kind of cheating reps and trying to muscle up a heavier weight, especially when doing a deadlift, which if you do it incorrectly, one, you might not move the weight, but two, doing it too incorrectly and trying to muscle the weight up can put you in a compromised position with your back and has potential to injure yourself. But as long as you're doing things correctly, you should be okay. But the big thing is making sure that you are doing that correctly. That's one thing that doing this, going through and reviewing all of this helps me do. It really helps me focus and hone in on how I'm doing my movements. It's very valuable, and I would genuinely recommend anybody to kind of do the same with any sort of performance work or physical exercise, that you're making sure you're getting the technique down correctly. That was something I also did pretty routinely when I was practicing music, is that I would record myself so I could watch my technique and make sure I wasn't doing anything improperly. One of the big things that I was kind of bad with was maintaining too much tension in my arms, and I wanted to make sure that I was getting that out and not holding that. So being able to record that, make sure you're doing the technique properly, is valuable, and it has translation over to this. So I'm kind of glad I had that habit. So with that in mind, this was the second day of my deload week, and I will be back on Saturday with another set of squats, maybe overhead press. I don't know. It depends on how my shoulder's feeling, and then with some block pulls.